Good Monday, everybody. It was quite a weekend, huh? First of all, on Friday night, we got to see a Indiana team just steamroll their way past we thought a team from Oregon that could give them a fight. But boy, I'll tell you right now, Indiana might just be the best football team in the state of Indiana, including the Colts. No question about it. Tonight, on the banks of the Monongahela and the Yakagani rivers, where they come together. Allegheny rivers, where they come together to form the Ohio River. On the banks of those three rivers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at Aberchurch Stadium, 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN. It'll be the Steelers hosting the Texans from Houston. Now, you look at this objectively and you say, well, gosh, the Texans have been playing outstanding. The Steelers have just kind of backed into the playoffs. They got there by the skin of their teeth when, Baltimore's kicker Tyler Loop missed a 44-yard field goal that allowed them to enter into the playoffs. Well, if you follow the Steelers over the years, you know that they have kind of bounced their way in and out of the playoffs. And despite, what it may look like, the Steelers still, with a very healthy and very accurate arm of a multiple MVP quarterback by the name of Mr. Aaron Rodgers, is not exactly a team that you can just take for granted. Now, we'll see how things work out. The one key question for the Steelers is, can a quick passing offense slow down that Texas pass rush? Now, we know that the Texans entered this game in this playoff as probably the hottest team in football. They've won 9 straight games as they closed out the season. Houston hasn't lost a game since November 2nd. That span includes wins over 3 other AFC playoff teams, okay? And that stretch has largely been on the backs of the defense, which almost any metric you look at is at the top of the league on just about every statistic you want to take, as I said, a look at. But then there's one team that counters with that Texas defense and excels at going, on a hurry-up situation and keeping you off balance. That's Aaron Rodgers. The next-gen stats, Aaron Rodgers comes into Monday night's game with an average time of throwing of just 2.59 seconds, okay? That right now, my friends, is the quickest among all of the 14 playoff quarterbacks and also the lowest mark in his career. So what Aaron Rodgers has learned is he doesn't have the legs anymore. He can sneak it out. He can keep things moving. But, and that's important, the issue is he gets the ball out of his hands really quick. And that could, if you're a Steelers fan, be the key issue here. Getting the ball out of his hands quick. And that way, the Texans' stellar pass rush of Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter, who have combined both of them for 27 sacks this season, will be able to stay away from Aaron Rodgers. Now, according to Mike Tomlin, the coach of the Steelers, Will Anderson and Hunter are simply the most dynamic edge rushing tandem in the National Football League, starting back in 2025, as he said in his press conference on Monday. But in some good news for Rodgers and the Steelers, number one receiver DK Metcalf will be back on the field Monday night after a 2-game suspension. You remember the altercation he had in Detroit with a fan in Week 16. That's a huge boost for the Steelers' offense, as Metcalf is easily their best receiver. He can win quickly off the line of scrimmage, which gives Rodgers basically a puncher's chance, no question about it. And that way, Metcalf will likely get a heavy dose of first-team All-Pro cornerback Derek Singletary, who's just another one of that fearsome member of the Houston defense. But if Metcalf can win one-on-one matchups and Rodgers can get the running backs involved in the short passing game, there's likely to be their best path to moving on past the Texans defense, which gave up a league low 277 yards per game this season. Otherwise, Rodgers and the Steelers could be in for a long night. Now, if you're a Texans fan, one quick question that you have to ask yourself is, can your offense protect the ball? Even though they've had I can say this, dominant defense, they've had trouble holding on to the ball. CJ Stroud, Houston's offense, finished 18th in total production, 22nd in rushing, 14th in passing, and 23rd in third down conversions. So it's not an overwhelming offense. Let's put it that way. But again, if you are a fan of the Texans, only Chicago Bears, who's at 11, have had fewer turnovers than the Texans have this year, which is 12. That is the definition of playing complementary football with the kind of defense they have. In other words, basically, CJ Stroud has been able to not cough up the ball and keep the Texans in the game score wise, while the defense has shut out the other teams. But despite the struggles this season, one thing Stroud has proven throughout his young career is he's not afraid of movement. So Stroud, who's 24, has one playoff win in each of his first two seasons, and he's already Houston's all-time leading postseason victory leader. He needs another clean game Monday. It's likely the defense will help him pick up a third playoff win if he doesn't turn it over and if they can stop Aaron Rodgers. Now, there's a lot of ifs, folks, a lot of ifs, and we will see how that pans out at this point in time. But tonight's game, if you're going to listen to it, it's available on Westwood One, and most of the radio folks out there have Westwood One in your car or on your radio, however you wish to get it. I would strongly suggest that you use the TuneIn app or the iHeartRadio app. Both of them have stations that will guide you directly to Westwood One's coverage. If you do not have them, okay, you can download the Westwood One free app, which is something that you can listen to all the games, playoff games on Westwood One. Great group of people at Westwood One, and for sure you're going to want to do that. So if you have TuneIn app, if you have the iHeartRadio app, or if you don't have either of those apps and you don't know where to find the game tonight, it's simple. Just download the Westwood One app into your phone or onto your computer or tablet, and you'll be able to hear all the action. The game will be played, obviously, on ABC ESPN and on the ESPN app for those of you who have it. So there you go. All right. What else is going on? Well, actually, something very interesting is going on, and that is the collapse of the regional sports networks that were owned by the folks at Mainstream Sports. They went under the title of FanDuel, and I spent most of my 50 years in the regional sports networks world. I helped build it. I watched it dominate. I watched it print money. Now I'm watching it collapse in real time. Now, the end came fast. Last week, 9 Major League Baseball teams walked away from Mainstream Sports after months of missing payments and shrinking distribution. These teams include the Atlanta Braves, the Cincinnati Reds, Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Royals, the Angels, the Marlins, the Brewers, the Cardinals, and lastly, the Tampa Bay Rays. They have reclaimed their rights and ended the RSN era in one dramatic move. Let me clear things up first, and that is FanDuel was just a title sponsor. They had no role in the failure. Second, Mainstream Sports never purchased the RSNs. It inherited them from Diamond Sports, which many of you may remember came out of bankruptcy. Now, the company faced same problems that sank Diamond Sports, which basically is declining cable households, fixed fee rights, and no path to growth, while the business model simply couldn't survive. Now, the RSN model failed because it never adapted. And I can tell you that's a fact. There was an overpayment, ridiculous overpayment for rights. It ignored cord cutting. It relied on cable bundling, which lost millions of subscribers over the past few years. Revenue continued to collapse while the team contracts stayed fixed. That was an imbalance that crushed the business and took down those 16 RSNs that were there under the Main Street / FanDuel network. Now, what happened to the DAZN deal? Well, the DAZN deal, basically died because the business collapsed under it. The 9 Major League Baseball teams did not reject DAZN. Okay, let's make that straight. They rejected staying with Main Street after the DAZN rescue collapsed and the company missed rights payments. The teams acted to protect themselves from another likely bankruptcy and to regain control of their local media rights. Their exits reflected the loss of confidence in Main Street's ability to operate stable regional networks. Now, let's be clear on this one as well. The teams rejected Main Street's proposal that would have imposed an immediate 20% reduction of deferred payments of rights fees. Moving past into future seasons, they were going for a 50-50 profit share model with additional rights fee cuts and required more long-term digital rights because they were unwilling to accept lower guarantee money and greater risks. So therefore, that 20% reduction along with the structure is what the teams decided to reject. Now, what happened to DAZN? Well, DAZN, who were in negotiations for months for Main Street in hopes to rebuild the RSNs, shift them, basically toward a streaming-focused model with continued cable distribution. The company wanted a national footprint. They saw the RSNs as fast entry. It made sense. You've got baseball, you've got basketball, and you've got hockey all in these RSNs. And so if DAZN, was able to walk away with it, they would have come out fine. But as they continued to work, they realized that Main Street's finances had deteriorated to the point where the value of the network simply collapsed. It wasn't worth anything. As a matter of fact, it was costing hundreds of millions of dollars. So what's up with DAZN? Well, DAZN is going to possibly return, probably I should say, as a bidder in the Major League Baseball's 2020 National Rights Package. And we'll see how they can handle a deal with Major League Baseball, if they can make it work. Now, what's Major League Baseball doing? Well, Major League Baseball is taking steps to control. As we know that Major League Baseball moved fast. The league's already controlled the local broadcasts for the Padres, Rockies, and Diamondbacks. Now, they prepare to take on over 9 new teams, actually 10. Commissioner Rob Manfred said that fans will not lose access. He said fans will not have games. They will all have the games on TV no matter what happens. Now, Major League Baseball wants a unified hybrid model. That model blends broadcast stations, so we're going back to the future here, cable partners, and direct-to-consumer streaming. It removes blackouts. It expands the reach. It gives teams more control over how they get their broadcasts to their fans. Now, joining Major League Baseball group is the Washington Nationals. They have left MASN, which they were part of since they came into the league in 2005. They're going to follow the same model as the Padres, Diamondbacks, and Rockies. MLB TV will produce the Nationals broadcast. They'll stream every game on MLB TV without blackouts and place a full package of game on Washington area broadcast stations with cable carriage where available. The reporting indicates that the MLB is ready to secure over-the-air partners in all the regions, giving the Nationals and all of the other 9 teams we talked about earlier a wider footprint than they've ever had before. Now, this shift ends, by the way, for the Nationals, a 20-year dispute that they've had with the Orioles' own team. Now, what teams are already building their own local models? And we've got some really, you know, good results to look at. Let's look at Houston. The Astros and the Rockets from Rockets have created a Space City home sports network. It blends cable coverage with wide broadcast reach. It also offers direct consumer streaming. The network replaced the failed RSN and became a stable hybrid model in that area of Texas. Now, Utah, we know the Jazz and the Mammoth both have got a full broadcast and streaming plan together. They partnered with KJZZ and KUTV to create a direct consumer service, and they reach, as again, more homes than they ever did under the old RSN model. In Dallas, the Stars have built a very strong broadcast partnership. They've expanded their reach across Texas. They've added direct consumer options. They've kept their cable fans happy and also their over-the-air broadcast fans. In Phoenix, the Suns, the Mercury, and the Diamondbacks all have partnered with Gray Television. They've launched a direct-to-consumer service. They reach more fans again than the old RSNs. In Vegas, the Golden Knights have partnered with Scripps. That moved to broadcast stations. They have also added a streaming element, and they built, frankly, one of the most successful hybrid models in all of sports. In Miami and Tampa Bay, they followed that same Golden Knights deal, which shows that you can partner with local TV stations and also streaming models and be able to keep your fans more than happy. Now, why is this a win for the fans? Well, the fans win in this new system because broadcast stations reach more homes. They cost nothing to you. You can get them over the air, or if you're already on your cable, or if you have Hulu TV or YouTube TV, they're most likely all in that. They remove blackout walls. Streaming gives fans flexibility. Cable still works for those who want it. The hybrid model gives fans more access than the RSNs ever did. What about the NBA and NHL? Well, again, we expect that Main Street will collapse. They've already said that they're going to go out of business at the end of the NBA and NHL seasons. Now, there are people that feel that they may not even make it that far. The leagues, obviously, have watched Major League Baseball and what they've done closely. And they know that the RSN model is not going to survive. So they want the control, they want it back, and they want the flexibility. The NBA has already got plans to build a league-wide system. It will use broadcast partners and also cable, where it still works. And obviously, they're going to go direct to consumer with their streaming. That package is going to be launched in 2027, 2028. The NHL plans to follow the same model as MLB and, of course, the NBA. So, are there RSNs that are going to survive? The answer to that question is yes. Speaking of, let's start with the Yes Network in New York. The Yes Network will be there, so if you are a fan of the Yankees and of the Nets, you're cool. Nesson, who has the Boston Red Sox, of course, and the Boston Bruins hockey team, you're cool. You're fine there. SNY, which shows the Yankees, the Mets network, you're good there. MSG, who has the Rangers, the Devils, and the Islanders, they're staying around. Masson, who has the Orioles, they'll be around. Marquee, which has the Cubs, you're fine there. The Dodgers and Lakers have long-term deals with Spectrum. They're fine. San Francisco and Philadelphia remain stable. Monumental Sports in Washington also remains strong. Now, the NBC Chicago is no longer operating. What happened there is Chicago Sports Network fully replaced it at the beginning of this season. So the Bulls and the Blackhawks and the White Sox all moved their games over to the Chicago Sports Network, where they, where the distribution is good. They've got over-the-air broadcast, and they continue to work with the hybrid model. So the 2028 Major League Baseball reset is going to look something like this. It's going to be a major shift. The league could sell the national and local rights together. It could partner with streamers. It could use broadcast stations for local reach. It could also build a unified national platform with local flexibility. This would end the RSN model forever. It would create a new system that blends broadcast, cable, and streaming. It would give fans more access, it would give teams more control, and it would give the league much more stability than it has at the moment. So let's go back to the future, as I said at the beginning of this. When I started in the 80s, I worked with syndicators who built over the air networks for pro and college teams. We sold games to the early RSN. Then the RSNs took over everything. I then became part of them, as I've told you before. And now we actually are returning to that original model that I started in the 80s, which is broadcast stations want live sports again. Cable still matters in some regards, in some places, and the streaming, the streaming aspect becomes the thing that completes the ecosystem. The RSN ends. The new model rises. It's faster. It's flexible. It reaches more fans. It gives teams more control. It gives league stability. That's what everybody wants. Ladies and gentlemen, the future arrives fast. It's this time that we hope that it works forever. So there's what we're on the RSNs. Took a lot about time to talk about the Steelers and the Texans tonight. Should be, honestly, Pittsburgh's defense is playing better. I wouldn't count them out. It's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, but it's going to be a fun game to watch. So let's go over where you can watch it again. ESPN and the ESPN app, ABC. For those of you who like to watch over the air, same thing. Joe Buck and Troy will be there. And you can listen to it locally on your outlet that carries Westwood One. If you don't have it or you don't know where to find it, you obviously have the TuneIn app, and you also have the iHeartRadio app. Both of them will show you. And if you can't find it there, or you don't want those apps, just download the Westwood One app, and they'll be able to handle the radio side of that for you. Okay. All right. So we've had a shorter program than normal, but then Matt is on his way out to Hawaii, where he's going to report hopefully later in the week from the Sony Open, which kicks off the PGA tournament season. So enjoy the Steelers and the Texans game tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And until then, everybody, have a great evening.